In this video, you're going to hear about a new software product called Oasis. You'll hear some of why it was created, and a little about the person who created it, John. John is an engineer by training, and he has managed engineering teams his whole career. John identified a gap in the IT market that wasn't being filled. He noticed this, because if such a product did exist, he would be using it. It would save him and his team a significant amount of time and effort. John talked to IT application developers about creating this product for him. He talked to colleagues who also, like him, faced similar circumstances. But the IT developers said that the idea was too hard to implement, and his colleagues told him that he was asking for too much. So John set out to create this product for himself. In this video, you will hear a background and overview of the gap in the market. What kind of problems John and others experienced because of this gap. How these problems are solved in the industry using traditional means. And finally, how the new product John created is able to address these problems in a radically different way. Let's start with the background. John has over 30 years' experience developing products for different consumer markets. Products such as PCs and laptops, mobile phones and semiconductors. His role required him and his team to accurately manage vast amounts of information. The kind of information needed to efficiently coordinate thousands of people, to plan their tasks, to specify product requirements, to assess profitability, to capture test results, to present meaningful and accurate updates to executives, and so on. And to effectively manage all this information, they used spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are a great super application, and you'll find them everywhere in any business. They are used to manage critical day-to-day operations. Or to manage teams, departments, and even critical company operations. It's been this way for decades. Except that there are problems. First, spreadsheet errors can be very expensive. In Europe, this issue has been formally recognized by the European Spreadsheet Risks Interest Group, or EuSprig. It recognizes an alarming proportion of spreadsheets lack controls needed to meet the many legal and financial compliance obligations. EuSprig has also collected horror stories, including billions in reporting errors, millions of dollars in fines and settlements to regulatory authorities and customers, shock profit warnings, and bankruptcy risks. Second, spreadsheets have one feature that make them hard to manage. They save all their information in a file. Files can be copied. This causes difficulties with, for example, accurate versioning, effective audit compliance, and enforced access control, which is the third main problem. Fourth, information silos, where information does not easily get to key people, naturally form and require effort to overcome. People need to know who to ask to discover that a file exists, let alone get access to that file. It's very easy for teams to unwittingly create duplicate sets of data. Fifth, key information that is required frequently by other teams, or worse another database, becomes a real challenge to provide systematically. Sixth, reduced productivity. Lack of automation means that there needs to be a marked increase in data quality audits. And a marked increase in communication and coordination efforts. Consolidating information from multiple spreadsheets can be very manual. To sum up these interrelated issues, there is a hidden cost to using a spreadsheet in a shared environment. To minimize the risk of costly errors, rules have to be set up for people to follow. Risks get worse, and rules tighten, as information becomes more critical, and as more and more people need to use that information to perform their day-to-day jobs. Once a spreadsheet crosses a threshold of importance, the risks of managing information in a shared file become too great. Files are a risky medium by which to manage critical information that is shared. From a perspective that looks at enterprise risk, this practice is completely inappropriate. Teams need to stop using files to manage their critical information. The alternative, and traditionally acceptable solution to address enterprise risk concerns, is to use a database-driven application. But this is hard to do. We're talking about spreadsheets that have become applications. Spreadsheets with custom calculations, and custom tables and charts. Conversion to a database-driven application can only be done by people with coding skills. So business teams talk to IT and ask them to help. This takes significant time, effort, and money. Business teams have something unique to them, called domain knowledge. It does not matter if teams are engineering, marketing, legal, finance, HR, and so on. Each team has domain knowledge specific to them. This means that teams can capture and maintain information relevant to their domain very quickly and naturally in spreadsheets. Most staff in business teams have basic math skills, enough to create simple equations in a spreadsheet. So two skills, domain knowledge, and basic math, are all the skills needed to create an application in a spreadsheet. Teams are able to do this, quickly and efficiently, without the need for IT, and without the need to code. Spreadsheets clearly empower teams. In contrast, IT application developers generally do not have the domain knowledge they need for the application that they are developing. Part of the task of developing an application with IT is to transfer that domain knowledge to the developer. This adds to the already slow and expensive process. Also, future changes, such as how information is presented, or if a new field needs to be added, or the way calculations are executed, have to go through a change control process with IT. So teams feel loss of empowerment. Is this the price that needs to be paid to address enterprise risk? There is a high barrier to move away from the risky homegrown spreadsheet applications that are loved so much by business teams. It's no wonder the world still runs on spreadsheets. Perhaps the solution to all this is obvious. We need a something else IT tool that enables teams in exactly the same way a spreadsheet does, but uses a database, not files. This is the topic that John discussed over many years with many IT developers and leads in the companies he worked in. They did not think that this was a problem that could be solved, or was worth solving. John believed that business teams could be empowered to create their own database-driven applications themselves. He believed that a tool could be created for business teams that is as easy to use as a spreadsheet. But before talking about what this new, something else tool looks like, let's look at what the IT industry actually does provide to business teams. There are various estimates available for how much is spent on IT in a given year. Numbers were selected to create an estimate of how much companies spent on IT products in 2023. The estimate is limited to focus just on tools that manage information. So for example, money spent on consulting, on-prem, or on cloud servers and infrastructure, are excluded. Looking at spend on products and services that support information management, we found about $600 billion was spent. Of this, about half is spent on custom application development. It's not possible to estimate what proportion of this relate to teams converting their spreadsheet application to a database-driven application, but, based on our experience, it's unlikely to be insignificant. Also, look at what teams used before these tools became available. In the majority of these cases, information started out in a spreadsheet. For each specific kind of information, smart people realized common patterns and needs across industries. And so these tools were born. But they all have a focus, and address a limited problem area. As far as we are aware, no one has asked for, let alone made available, a general-purpose tool. A tool that would serve the custom application market. A market that is half of this pie. So let's talk about the something else solution that John set out to create for himself. He started by writing down the requirements. He also wanted to rapidly identify and converge on any show-stopping issues. During this time, John also surveyed a large number of no-code and low-code tools that already exist. These tools do some of what is being requested. They can create an application without needing to know how to code. WordPress is a great example. It enables anyone to create blogs and basic websites very effectively. But our requirements are not satisfied by WordPress, nor by any of the other tools. This wasn't really a surprise. Such tools all specialize in certain problem spaces. None are designed to serve the general-purpose market. Let's outline our requirements. A spreadsheet does 3 basic things, and these are therefore must-have requirements for a solution. First, the means to capture and organize values in a table. Second, the means to manipulate, model and massage information. So, anything that you can do with equations in a spreadsheet, this product needs to be able to do. This second requirement is where the majority of existing tools fail. And finally third, the means to present beautified tables and charts, suitable for an executive review. To address business risk concerns and other enterprise needs, the following additional requirements are also must-haves. Fourth, access control. That is, means to enable or prevent different users to view and/or edit data. This includes fine-tuned access control. For example, some users should only be able to view or edit values in specific rows or columns in a table. Fifth, full history on demand. Clear and instant availability of who updated any value, when it was updated, and how values have changed over time. Sixth, the means to see the full history, or to edit values from dashboard views. We do not want to edit from just tables. This is important, since in some reviews, this enables the presenter to instantly answer commonly asked questions about the information that they are presenting. Seventh, a configurable API. This provides the means for other systems to access data. This is a critical requirement that helps break information silos. Included in this requirement is the means to import, or use information, from other systems. In other words, it should look something like this. To be honest, most IT tools look like this. Pick any application, and all these elements are there. But, and this is important, they all implement their solution with custom code. The most important requirement we have is to enable users to create their own applications without any custom coding. What about all the no-code and low-code products that we looked at? For their target markets, all seemed great at letting users define their own tables, or in creating their own views. But none could enable users to model or manipulate information for themselves. So John's next task, after writing down all these requirements and more, was to focus on this area. How to create a user interface that enables non-programmers to model and manipulate tables of values, and was as easy as writing equations in a spreadsheet. Drawing on his background in telecommunication and network modeling and simulation, John identified an approach. After some basic successful tests, he realized a product was feasible. So he went into full development mode to build out the rest of the product. He soon discovered one other issue that had to be sorted out quickly. And the approach he took as a result created another difference in Oasis as compared with existing IT tools. It's to do with the differences in how data and information are managed. Information is simply organized data. But how it's created and maintained, and what business teams do with the information they manage, is very different to how software developers manage data. An example will help explain. A database requires a predefined structure. Fields, or column names, must be defined, and data types, such as numbers, strings or dates, are specified before anything is ever saved. You have to predefine variables and structures before you can do any work. This way of thinking is fundamental to creating software code and databases. But this approach is a complete nightmare for a business team member. They just want to put values in a table. They do not want to predefine variables or structures. Data types are a secondary consideration to be figured out later, and only if needed. The experience that they want is, organize as you go. This insight leads us to state that business teams primarily manage information, not data. And, because spreadsheets enable this organize-as-you-go approach, we also say that spreadsheets are an information management tool, not a data management tool. In the same way, Oasis is an information management platform, built to manage information, not data. It fully enables an organize-as-you-go mindset and approach. Many design decisions were impacted by it, even the basic decision on what software language and database to use. The software language used, JavaScript, has very loose typing rules. This language is used by the browser and the server. The database used is a document database. Both JavaScript and the document database have very flexible approaches to managing information. To conclude, Oasis was created to meet a need that has been ongoing for decades. Like a spreadsheet, it manages information, but instead enables business teams to create their own database-driven applications, without the need to code. Business teams retain the feeling of empowerment, as they keep full control over their application. And lastly, without the expense and delay inevitable when using application developers, it reduces enterprise risk concerns.